Hi guys, Girish here again on another podcast episode at SEO Melbourne, and I'm here with one of my clients, Sahand from Control Group. Hi Sahand, how's it going?
Hi, Girish. Thank you for having me on. I'm
Oh,
excited.
that's great to hear. So I've known Sahand for the last almost about 4 years now. We met our paths crossed when we were working in the startup space. And so Zan has been a client of ours for over a year, and we've helped him with the Control Group website and gain more organic growth there. So how's it going, Zan? Tell me a bit about, your association with Control Group. How did that come about?
Yeah, no, things are good. I'm just sheltering in place down in Melbourne. Same with you.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, hope we all get through this. So I've been, I lived in Singapore. So I worked in the startup space there.
Yeah.
I had a couple simple young internships in a couple of banks.
Yeah.
And then moved to Shanghai to work in a startup there as well, in a data analytics company.
Yeah.
And I then came to Melbourne. I did university. After that, I worked in the startup innovation space, startup consulting space, venture capital space, and came across this very low-key company called Control Group. And at a distance, it doesn't seem like much, but once you get to know them, get to understand the value proposition, get to understand the mission, and then uncover the activities they're involved in, the clients they have, some remarkable stuff. And I was fascinated by it. And it was an industry that was burgeoning. It was an industry that has still a lot of potential. It's an industry that's going to make a meaningful impact in this world in many ways. And it was a good time. It was a fantastic time to join them. So I met the founders and we got along, and I was lucky enough to have been invited to join the team. And from there, the rest is history. So I've been there for 2 years. It's been a remarkable growth journey. We have hit some major goals. We have grown, and we are providing tailored and agile cybersecurity for a lot of clients right now. So small, medium, and large enterprise, and it's just fantastic. And I'm sorry to brag, but it truly is a good experience, and I've just had nothing but a good time there.
That's good. And just to get an idea, you've been with Control Group for what, the last 1.5 years? How long?
Close to 2 years now.
Close to 2 years now. And how, like, have you've seen a growth trajectory? Because I think earlier you mentioned that, when you started working with them, they were a low-key company, but now Control Group is on the rise. It is, you guys are investing a lot in innovation and technology in the space, right? So how big have you guys grown in the last 2 years? Have you guys put like, what capacity are you guys at right now?
As a team size, we've nearly tripled within the 2 years. In our client base, we've had, I think, a 6 to 7x increase in the number of clients within 2 years.
Oh, nice.
And separate to that, I think the most important thing for us is the maturity of our services and how far they've come from just the last 2 years alone. Our team has a very strong focus on continually improving, updating, and trying to innovate at the end of the day, everything we do. So whether that's how we respond to critical breaches, whether that's the tools that we use in penetration testing, whether it's the methodologies, the IPs, and then basically the overlay services and technologies on our security operations center. It's continually evolving. It's continually getting better. And that is testament to the team, the mindset of the team, and the philosophy they have to never sit still. It's just always getting better. And I think that is one of the key drivers of the sort of innovation mentality that we have, and also how it's resulted in the growth of clients. So I think that within itself has been, fantastic to watch. Notwithstanding, obviously, there's been a fantastic increase in appetite for cybersecurity as the entire world becomes hyper-digitized. Or in parallel to hyper-digitization, it's also just people's education has basically increased. So their cyber awareness or their general awareness of security and the importance of keeping your data safe has increased. So those two things in play have really pushed a lot of attention towards us. And that's resulted in some great growth.
Just, touching up upon what you mentioned in terms of growth, of course, all of us are currently experiencing some pretty interesting times with the COVID pandemic. Do you what kind of an impact do you think that has had on your business? So of course, a lot of companies have now made sure that their employees are working from home, right? Do you think that working from home could be, they could pose potential security threats to the companies that they're working for? Because obviously you are trying to make sure that your employees are accountable for the work that they do. Now, how does that play into the entire, I guess, trying to make sure that none of the employees have made any security breaches? How are you guys currently, what are you guys currently experiencing right now with this entire pandemic situation? Are you guys accountable for the work that they do? Now, how does that play into the entire, I guess, trying to make sure that none of the employees have made any security breaches with this entire pandemic situation? Are you guys experiencing an increase in inquiries, an increase in issues? What's going on?
I think that's a very big question, so I'll break it down. From a sort of macro perspective, there is a significant it's a very big increase in activity in hacking. And that's because in times of chaos, it presents a very, very good opportunity for organized criminals, hackers, malicious actors to make profit. It's the perfect time to take advantage of people's emotional vulnerabilities, people's weak tech environments, and also the geopolitical sort of factor that really needs to be understood here is many nations are also increasing their cyber activities against each other. So at a macro level, it's busy times for cybersecurity providers to make sure their clients are safe. So that's sort of one part. The second part to that is sort of most companies did not really spend time to assess how prepared they are in terms of what remote working is. Right. So when it becomes a reality, how prepared are you? And are you ready to mitigate the risks posed from remote working? Because your connections to the internet, the tools you use, the softwares at play increases multifold. So you now have many more vulnerabilities that you're exposed to, many more points of failure, many more attack vectors that could be used against you. And that preparedness has created, a lot of drive internally to address the weaknesses of organizations. So basic questions: is my company's password hygiene good? Do my staff know what is a secure and non-secure network? Are the softwares I use up to date? And these are some of the most basic elementary things. And the third piece is sort of, how trained are my staff in identifying cyber risk when it comes in terms of phishing emails, scams, faulty links, anything in between that could be used to enter an organization or enter the device itself. So, having a pandemic has forced a lot of companies to change their working arrangements, which has been great. It has created a lot of benefits for them. It has now pushed the conversation significantly into cyber risk mitigation, right? Cyber risk awareness. And hopefully coming out of this, more companies have a robust cyber strategy moving forward. How do you allocate resources to your cyber? And if you don't have a cyber team, your IT department, for example, how do you allocate the appropriate time and care towards training your staff? And I think all of this will benefit industry significantly.
Yeah. So, you've spoken a lot about, what you guys are doing in the current environment, and how, companies should be thinking about this. Because of the pandemic, they have started thinking about this a lot more. And because of that, they would come out with a healthier, I guess, overall profile, and they would be able to figure out before they get attacked in many cases, because they have certain measures in place now. What I'm trying to also understand is that you guys, and you've created something called the Cyber Hacker Podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. And your CEO is a pretty well-known figure in the cybersecurity space, Bastian, right? So tell me a bit more about the podcast, and what are you looking to achieve with that podcast? Like, what is the podcast trying to address with the space? And even with the podcast, when you choose topics to I guess address the audience with, how do you choose those topics? I mean, is it something that you guys choose based on the inquiries that you get through the security operations center? Like, what is, how do you guys select what to speak about next with your podcast?
Got it. So Cyber Hacker Podcast was and is an initiative with Podcast One Australia. We basically got together with them and said, hey, there's an insane amount of sort of things we're seeing in industry. Our exposure is, in our eyes, pretty interesting. I think it's in content people would like to engage with and listen to. We want to share this. I mean, ultimately, one of our key missions is to drive awareness, not only in the industry, but about cybersecurity, what it means. We think there should be a base level of understanding across everyone, the same way, you understand, hopefully, math or other stuff. We think cyber should be there. We think everyone should play a role in terms of protecting themselves and also holding institutions accountable for the use of their information and personal and financial data. So that was the sort of mission that we have. We want to educate more people and get them more inspired and more engaged with cybersecurity and their own personal cyber hygiene. We said, well, the podcast is probably the best way to do it. And then that created a whole conversation with cyber hackers. Like, let's just make this as cool as possible. And let's add a great amount of thinking into, coordinating the topics, making sure they're relevant, and building off sort of a base level where season 1 was all about, what are the basics? What should you be aware of as a business owner or even as a person? And what were key things you had to understand about the industry? So who are your, or how do you pick a cybersecurity partner? What should you look for in them? What are their services? What are these services in terms of their definition, the outcomes you should get, the features provided? And season 2 now is more about the geopolitical landscape. What's happening in the world, current affairs? What should you know? How does it sort of impact your life? What will it do in terms of the future? And that's been pretty exciting because the last 2 years have been chaotic. Like, there's a lot of content, and we've been very lucky to have, some great speakers in the field of what's it called? Threat detection, penetration testing. One of our next sort of speakers was someone who wrote a biography on Julian Assange. So we're going to talk about that world. I think people really love that, especially since privacy and freedom of speech is such a big topic this year. And then we have also recently interviewed one of the heads of cybercrime at Interpol, which is the global police agency. And they'll be talking about some of the tools they use to catch organized criminals, but also gives you an insight into the world of organized criminals.
Yeah.
Something we uncover is also how much money they spend on R&D to be as good as they can be in their tech setup. And these organized crime syndicates are fantastic. Yeah. Hats off to them. They spend a lot of money on upgrading their technology, creating new ones, and there's a lot to learn from there. Albeit, you know, their intent is different to ours. But we just make it informative, we make it fun, we make it different, and it's unfiltered. But Bastian, our co-founder, he is a former black hat hacker. He has incredible insights and experience in this space. So he's not your traditional podcast host. He actually gets involved, gets engaged in a conversation. And I would recommend people listen to it. But it should boost your understanding of the industry and what cybersecurity really is.
So one quick question, right? That I guess you mentioned Bastian was a black hat hacker. So what's the one main difference between a black hat hacker and ethical hacking? So yeah, I'm just trying to sort of understand what the differences are.
Yeah. So black hat hacker is someone with malicious intent.
Yeah.
Someone snooping around. You could work for yourself. You could work for an organization. Or you could be forced to do it in some way or another. An ethical hacker is someone who is paid under strict supervision and regulation to conduct works on identifying vulnerabilities, exposing them, and reporting on them. So two very different fields. One's a professional sort of thing in terms of a career and has a trajectory. The other is slightly different, but both require some great skills. And I am super impressed by both sides of the table.
Yeah, but I'm guessing it's the job of the black hat hacker to surpass what an ethical hacker is trying to put in place, pretty much. If they want to be successful in trying to hack whatever they're trying to break.
Yes. So, you know, our industry is like most, you need the good and bad to coexist. You can't have one without the other. So you can't just have ethical hackers and then you can't not have the black hackers, and because one creates the other's job and the other creates an exciting opportunity for the counterparty. So as long as there are people with malicious intent, this industry will get better. Definitely. As long as information is exponentially increasing in its usage, its storage, its shareability, and its accessibility, you will always have hackers on both sides. And you're always going to have innovation occurring because it is this non-stop game of innovation, and to start being like, what is the other side doing and how can I outdo them? Now, what we know from experience, from the people we have in our team, is it gets to a certain point where your passion becomes so strong, you devote yourself into becoming the best hacker you can be. And these guys and girls build, pseudonym names. You won't know who they are. They might be black hat hackers for a month if they're really passionate about a cause, and they'll expose a company. And then on the other side, they might, help a company anonymously by hacking them, sending a report over and saying, hey, you should probably fix these. That is very unique, and they get recognized as masters of their art. It truly is an art form, because it's not just hacking. It's about, strategy. It's about philosophy. It's about, game theory. It's about science. And it's about understanding, sociology and social frameworks. How do you manipulate people and systems to get the outcome you want? And it becomes an art form. It's fascinating, and people get passionate about it. Some of them actually have followings online. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Wow. It's interesting. Now, my next question is going to move more towards, I guess the website and the content strategy around what, you're trying to do with with the podcast and with, a lot of the targeted blog posts that you guys have been updating on your website, right? So I guess the first question here is, in terms of content that you guys put up on the website, blog posts. I noticed that you guys are trying to address a lot of questions, that people are searching for online and want answered. So has this content strategy helped you get more visibility online? And how important is, how much of your business does come from online sources currently? I mean, how important is the online side of, digital marketing for your business?
That's a good question. It's very hard to answer
Yeah.
because people don't really buy cybersecurity online
Yeah.
unless it's a very specific solution like your antivirus or your anti-malware. Because we provide services, digital for us is big in terms of making sure we have market awareness, right? And where most people are, it's whether they're on their phones or laptops or iPads. To have the appropriate strategy to basically have very good, respectable channel partners that distribute your content or share it or collaborate with you like we're doing today. Creating new content. And then it's to make sure that whatever you do produce for them when they do get in touch, whether it's your website, the content you send in PDF form about your services, that is extremely clear. It is well presented. It exudes a great deal of professionalism and trust. That needs to be established very, very quickly, because cybersecurity is, and for cybersecurity services companies, it's all about trust, because you're basically going to be embedded very intimately into that organization. You are their cybersecurity partner. You'll have access to a lot of things. And that trust needs to be established, if not struck, very quickly. And the only way you could do that without meeting them is to make sure any touch point they have with you presents that, right? And sort of tries to illustrate that and sort of evokes that feeling within them to say, wow, these guys are great. I get it. I'm going to go on the contact us page and just say, I need to talk to you. And then that's sort of where, we would proceed with the conversation and really ask them what they need, what their pain points are, assess their maturity, rating, and then, produce a proposal. So there's a few steps before a proposal or a transaction is done. We don't call it a transaction, but I think for the purposes of this, we'll just call it that. But the time and effort it takes to plan out your content strategy, plan out who you partner with to push content, make sure that your design, whether it's your website, your sort of collateral, and anything in between, the language, the illustrations, the colors, everything fits in, is a full-time maintenance job. And obviously, it's been great working with you guys because we've overlaid all of that. SEO. And SEO for us has been fantastic because before we didn't quite understand as a business the power of a very strong, consistent, and professional online presence. We knew that it was important, but most of our competitors, if not the entire industry as a whole in Australia for cybersecurity, their websites were pretty awful. And that's just across the board. And I think we came in and we looked at it with some fresh eyes and said, look, why don't we just make change? Let's just break out of this mold. There is no need to conform in this manner. And SEO has really pushed us into that, and being accessible online and engaging people online has been good. So we have, I mean, we were ranked maybe third or fourth on most things, if not even fifth to 10th page
Yeah.
uh, when we did our first review. And now we're in the top page for most things, and maybe the second page for a few others that are slightly more competitive. But the content strategy you guys helped us with was good, because a lot of the content we push in, as you know, most of the listeners hopefully can see on our website, are things you can take away, right? These are short form, informative pieces, and they're easy to understand. And you walk out of that knowing, as a business decision maker, what you have to do. Okay, whether or not you engage us or not, that is
That's, yeah.
something.
Yeah. It's important to educate users as much as possible, because at the end of the
Yeah,
day, a lot of information out there already, as we all know, right? Now,
exactly.
it's important to, help a person with the information that you provide them on your website, regardless of whether they are going to engage with your services or not. Because at the end of the day, by providing them with that information, you are just exposing your website to the internet a lot more. And that would be very valuable. I did remember, when we started, we had that one pager website, and then we slowly built everything out, which was, which definitely had a good impact on the strategy. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. And I think, with this season 2 of the podcast, I'm with the Cyber Hacker podcast, I'm pretty it's pretty interesting to see what kind of what we can leverage on the website. Because, as you said, that this second season is more about the changing environment and the changing circumstances of how businesses need to adopt, given the current situation and how the geopolitics around it plays out. So it's going to be
Yeah,
pretty there is going to be a lot more interest, because a lot of people can resonate with the same feeling of being
absolutely.
up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just to comment on that. So the podcast has served us well. We've had over 120,000 downloads and listeners, actually maybe 150 now,
Yeah.
150,000 since its launch about 7 months ago.
Okay.
And, we've all worked together on this, multiple parties, to make sure that happens. And we hope to hit over 1 million within the year, and that'll be amazing. But the podcast really informed us of why rich content, so is important.
Yeah.
Engages people, starts the conversation, sometimes ends it, but it's important to be there for that, and it creates a good platform. So we were actually quite inspired by some of this work we've been doing with you, and we have this other platform called Cyber in Business.
Yeah.
And we've turned that into a educational platform, very similar to what we're doing today, where we interview the best minds in cybersecurity, and just have that as a free sort of resource for anyone that wants to learn about the industry. We are trying to make the biggest, most comprehensive catalog for the industry, and it runs through very specific things in cybersecurity. Whether it's what is incident response, what should you know, how is it done, to what is penetration testing, to anything in between. And that, the podcast, the content we're making, written form, all of that come together, underpinned by sort of the SEO, the web design, creates a very, appealing sort of strategy, a robust strategy that, hopefully for us drives more people to Control Group, and hopefully we get to the point where we meet them in person or get on a call. Now, our company and our team know how important it is to have that call, because our co-founders, especially our CEO Steve Williams, he's assembled a fantastic team, and not just me, but outside of that, he's assembled a incredibly talented and dynamic team, where you could have many different conversations with many different personas of a client, and everyone plays to their strength.
Yeah.
And that has become a very strong foundation to engaging people meaningfully, very genuine, very honest, and building that sort of trust as we move along the conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, and how we present ourselves when we do speak to them, right? And all of that come together starts with the most basic thing,
Which
content.
content, look and feel of the website, the
And then
design,
you sort
slowly it builds onto, builds onto that
of
touch point.
yeah, it's a sum of many parts coming together.
Together, for sure, for sure. So what do you say the future holds for, I mean, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I know we've sort of gone a bit over, but what does the future hold for Control Group? Like, what do you see being a pretty important part of your strategy in terms of growth as well, say for the next 6 months to 1 year, given the current situation?
Yeah, of course. I have spent a lot of time on this. The
Yeah,
team spends a lot of time on this.
yeah,
We have a very strategic and forward-looking management team, very competent.
yeah,
Um, as you could see in industry these days, especially in the tech sector, a lot of people have been called out because they have not shown resiliency in in these hard times, and it could be for multiple factors, but won't comment on that now.
yeah,
But there is a significant amount of resiliency that was demonstrated in the last 6 months.
yeah,
There is a significant amount of opportunity that was realized,
yeah,
and we have set the foundation and the basis to enter new markets, to create new products, to expand our appeal to much larger enterprise. And that sets the basis for a great deal of growth moving into 2021, where I will not be surprised if we are hopefully achieving another sort of threefold in the number of clients.
yeah,
And these are not sort of vanity metrics
yeah,
or anything of that sort.
yeah.
It's just that, the team has demonstrated from our adaptability that we can achieve some great things. So the future is extremely bright, extremely exciting for us.
That's good to hear. And we are extremely excited to be working with you, through your SEO campaign, and especially with the phase 2 of the podcast, and potentially improving certain other areas of the website that we want to incorporate the podcast in a more visual, I guess, sense, because that would get users to engage a bit more with your website, which would then hopefully lead into that inquiry, and of course in the long run, conversions into clientele. So we definitely
Yeah.
are looking forward to phase 2 of the SEO campaign. And thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day and having this conversation with me. It was great catching up, and we will be in touch with soon.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Girish. You
Thanks.
guys
Cheers.
work. I would highly recommend SEO Melbourne. You guys are fun.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks for
Appreciate
that.
it so much.
Cheers.